Hello everyone, welcome back to e-learning. So we're still on history grade 7, but this is the last section that we're going to be doing. And the topics that we're going to cover is land disposition and the consequences for the indigenous people populations. The Genadendal, that was the first mission station in southern Africa in 1738, and the work of William Bleek and Lucy Lloyd. Now, this picture basically shows you the movement of the Trekboers with the slaves and their servants. And you can see that as they had moved inland, they had displaced the Khoikhoi and the Sand that were living there. Now, the Hottentots Holland Mountain now can be seen as a natural boundary of the original Cape settlements. Now, the Trekboers moved deep into the interior, which is now the Western Cape, and they moved towards Eastern Cape and the Free State as well. And you can see this in the map. So here is Cape Town, which is the darker region, and you can see that the Trekboers, they moved widely and vastly towards the interior of Africa. And they moved as far as the Karoo, and the Karoo basically was hot and dry, and it wasn't fertile enough for crops to grow. So these Trekboers started to rely on cattle and sheep farming because they couldn't grow crops. So the Karoo was ideal for livestock. Now this caused great conflict with the Khoikhoi and the Sand and the Xhosa people that were originally living there, and the Trekboers' way of life had become very destructive. They hunted and they killed wild animals, and this caused the extinction of the Blobok and the Quaka populations. And according to some reports, they basically captured some Khoikhoi and Sand people, and they used the local women and children as their servants. Now, this caused the land disposition for the local indigenous people as the Trekboers moved inland. They began competing with the San and the Khoikhoi and the Xhosa for grazing land and water, and each group were basically needed the land to make a living and also to survive. There were many fights and rages between these people in the 1600s, and the Trekboers had better weapons, and this resulted in hundreds of Khoikhoi being killed, and they were disposed of their traditional grazing lands. Now, some Khoikhoi were forced to become laborers and servants for the Europeans, and others fled and they moved inland and they joined the San along less fertile land near the mountainous areas. Now, you know that you learned last year in grade 6 that uh, uh, penicillin was invented and there was an outbreak of smallpox. And in 1713, the Europeans basically, when smallpox was spread through the colony and the Cape, the Europeans were basically immune against it because they built up a resistance. They were vaccinated in Europe. And the Khoikhoi was not vaccinated, so they had no immunity against smallpox or measles, and hundreds of the Khoikhoi had died. Now you could see in this picture the conflict that arose between the Khoikhoi and the Trekboers. Now, as the Trekboers moved further north, they took over more and more of the grazing land, and this conflict between the whites and the Khoikhoi uh, strengthened. And in 1730, they clashed at a Petersburg district not far from Cape Town, and the local Khoikhoi people raided the cattle farms in that area, and the local farmers fought back, and with the help of the soldiers, the Khoikhoi was beaten. Within 60 years of the Dutch landing at the Cape, the traditional economic, social, and political order of the Khoikhoi had been completely destroyed. Now, the Genadendal was basically the first mission station of Southern Africa. This is a new section right now. Before we move on, one question that can be asked, which is a good essay question, is discuss how the Khoikhoi and the San were displaced as the Cape Colony became colonized. Okay, so the Genadendal basically means Valley of Grace, and it is a town in the Western Cape province of South Africa, and it was built on the site of the oldest mission station in the country. It was originally known as Bavavian Kloof, but it was renamed Genadendal in 1806. So at the bottom, you could see it is the first picture of the erection of the building. And as time passed, it was rebuilt, and this is how it looks at the top. Now, George Smith was an early worker of the Moravian Missionary Society, and he founded this mission statement. There were 13 farms in this vicinity, and Smith taught the Khoikhoi people to read and write. Although he eventually had a small congregation, he was not an ordained minister, and the Dutch Reformed clergy was not very happy that he had baptized his converts. And after 7 years, he was forced to leave the country, and in 1745 he had left. Now, the Genadendal was the place of the first teachers' training college in South Africa, and it was founded in 1838. Now, this is how it currently looks today, the Genadendal, but it's no longer in existence. The Teachers Training College had closed. Now, the Moravians returned to restart the mission in the Genadendal in 1792, and they were found an old woman called Veneget Tikuli, whose Christian name was Magdalena. Now, during these years, after Smith had left, she read from the Bible to the other Khoikhoi, and Magdalena's Bible was kept in the Genadendal, and it is housed in a box made of wood from a pear tree, and this pear tree was actually planted by Smith. Now, at one stage, you know that it was the largest settlement in the Cape Colony, and it was self-sufficient community came about, and this home industries flourished, such as forging of knives, that basically is still seen today. Now, the Genadendal, as I told you previously, was an educational center. It was the first teachers training college, but now it is a museum building, and it was first erected in 1838. But the training college is now closed, as I told you. Now, William Bleek and Lucy Lloyd. Now, Lucy Catherine Lloyd was basically, she lived from 1834 to 1914, and William Bleek, they were the creator of the 17th century archives or historical collection of Ism or Kung. It's a Khoikhoi Khoisan language text. If I don't pronounce it correctly, you must forgive me. Now, Lucy Lloyd was born in England, but she moved to Durban when she was 14. Her father was an archdeacon of the Anglican Church in Durban, and her sister Gemma was married to William Bleek in 1862. Now, William Bleek was a philologist. Now, this is a person that studies language in historical documents. He was put in the charge of an archive that is a collection of where important documents are stored, and the Grey Collection of the Southern African Library in Cape Town. Now, this collection started in 1870, and it consists of more than 13,000 documents. That's just more than just some scraps of paper that preserve the memory of the lost languages of the Isam and the Kung people. Now, Lucy Lloyd took charge of this collection after Bleek died. It was very unusual for a woman at that time to take this type of position, and she was paid only half of Bleek's salary. And this remarkable work that ensured that the heritage of the original inhabitants of the Cape was kept forever, so it formed part of history. In 1869, some Sandmen who were living at the Northern Cape were arrested for stock theft, and these men were sent to the Breakwater prison in Cape Town. Now, in Cape Town, William Bleek from Germany and a man who studied he was a, and they basically interviewed him. The three of them could speak Kazim and also remembered how their parents and grandparents had lived as hunter-gatherers. So this is a picture of William Bleek and Lucy Lloyd, and this is one of the pages that they had um, uh, in their notebooks that was translated. It was arranged that the three of them, Kabu and Hanskaf and Tawan, would live with Bleek and his family in Cape Town. And Bleek and Lloyd slowly learned the Sism language and they wrote it down, making up symbols with the clicks in the language. Now, Bleek and Lloyd filled more than 130 notebooks with what the men had told them in Ism or scan. The cause as they speak with a click. Unfortunately, I can't do it. You must forgive me. Now, later, the English translations were added alongside the LSAM, and for these notebooks, we have information and knowledge about the Sam people and their beliefs and their stories, as well as the meaning of the rock paintings that the Sam had painted. And this information if it had not been written down by Bleek and Lloyd, it would have been lost forever. So basically, this concludes the third term history syllabus. I hope you enjoyed all the videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.